Hey guys, I'm Folly, and welcome to the first video on the channel. Today I'm gonna rant about a character from an indie YouTube cartoon series known as Disventure, a show inspired by animated trash reality TV parodies like Total Drama. I heard about Disventure when it was at its peak in Season 2, but during that time I never bothered to watch it as I used to assume indie projects like this will inevitably get discontinued due to factors such as copyright. But this time, I was wrong with my judgment. I joined the Disventure fandom right as the character bios for the Season 1 reboot casts were announced on Odd Nation's community posts. Season 1 was my first anticipated season, which makes this my nostalgic season. At the time, I couldn't bear to watch Season 2 first due to how scuffed it was, you know what I mean. But I got around it eventually. Between Season 1 reboot and Season 2, the second season is surprisingly my personal favorite. Maybe it's because the drama there is more tame despite Rhea in the cast, but this video is not about her. No, today's video will be dedicated to ranting about Ellie, and how in my opinion she's the worst character in the series. I'm talking below F tier. Look, if Lech Gang can hate on Suitcase, a beloved character from Inanimate Insanity, I want to share my opinions on Ellie and how she isn't a well-written character despite what the majority says. Ellie debuted in Season 1, and she's known for her grey moral compass. She's witty, forthright, and is willing to get her hands dirty to reach her goals, which makes her journey interesting and helps stir the pot for the show. So, what's not to like about her? Before I get too personal, I want to be very clear that I don't hate Ellie for the questionable things she did for self-preservation specifically. After all, she is in a game that encourages manipulation, and game recognizes game. And you shouldn't judge a person for only wanting to do things for money, because what if that's their only chance of getting a better life? In her case, in Season 1 Episode 4, Ellie says that she works 2 minimum wage jobs that barely pay her rent. I think a lot of the show's demographic can relate to her circumstance. Now, what I do hate about Ellie is who she is as a person, who she has become in All Stars, and her rivalry with another character. First, let's critique her gameplay strategy. Fans say that Ellie's best trait is her lack of care for what others think and her willingness to betray. I'd argue it's her biggest flaw that I find frustrating to watch. I want to bring up Lake's elimination, for example. It's a crucial moment. The way Ellie voted her off was brutal, but I think it was an impulsive move on her part. That play made it harder for Ellie to persuade Tess again the next time Cyan loses. When Cyan did eventually lose again, she was the next member to go. Even though it was Lake's fault for joining an alliance that didn't include Aiden, expecting to be all sunshine and rainbows. Ellie initiated the Girls' Alliance only for her to destroy her protection in the same episode, giving her an early bad impression, and we know what happens to those. Think about it, what's her plan after eliminating Lake? Other than Gabby, the rest of the team is against her, and Tess easily vouches for Aiden because of their shared connection through Lake, something Ellie did not consider. No amount of convincing will make me think this was a smart move. And no, Gabby joining the villains was not on Ellie's plan. I have one more example, but I'm saving that to build another argument. Because of that, next, we're highlighting Ellie's moments of contradicting herself and how I find it frustrating that nobody seems to call her out on them. I am aware of the argument that we're all victims of not living up to our own standards, but the show isn't doing much effort on addressing Ellie's hypocrisies as if the show thinks she never needs to. In All Stars, she sometimes projected her trust issues onto others, telling Tess not to trust her best friend in Episode 5, and telling Gabby Cyan Team is shady when she was complicit with Yellow and even lied to her. These are instances of Ellie projecting her trust issues, likely due to what Miriam did to her in the finale of Season 1. Speaking about trust issues, didn't Ellie use Jake's trust issues against him and invalidated his frustration back in Season 1? In fact, My next issue that I have with Ellie is her conflict with Jake, and how, in my very unpopular opinion, Jake is mostly on the right side of the argument. That's one of my hottest takes, and I fully admit that. Just let me cook for a bit. People tend to miss this crucial detail, but Jake was just an ally to Ellie, not a true friend like what most viewers interpreted. In episode 8 of season 1, she admitted that he's just a plan B in a confessional.
Yeah, I need to keep my options open.
By putting this overlooked scene into perspective, Ellie actually pretended to be Jake's outlet by first complimenting his looks when she switched teams in episode 7. Then she gave Jake advice to rekindle his relationship with Tom. When Jake and Tom came to terms with their issues, that's when Ellie destroyed what she helped fix. This is also where my second argument comes in as to why I think Ellie is an incoherent strategist. In my perspective, it's ultimately Ellie's fault and her decision to constantly trust Alec that turned Jake against her. She trusted Alec 3 times after being betrayed by him twice. In episode 6, with him lying to her that he would vote a Fiore, and episode 8, where his hidden agenda was revealed that caused her loved interest Gabby to be eliminated. After those 2 instances, she is still willing to be convinced by Alec after making new friends with the Teal team. In episode 10, Ellie played fire with fire when she knew she shouldn't. When Ellie switched to the Teal team, she quickly finds Jake an ally, but now their quote-unquote friendship has been ruined because she made that deal with Alec. I do believe there is a part of Ellie that cares for Jake, but if her plan is to keep Jake while still prioritizing on winning the prize money, then she really didn't do a great job. That only made Miriam give Ellie a taste of her own medicine. Her priorities are clear and I don't blame her for them. But in terms of if Jake deserved to be tormented by her, that's a different story. Ellie used Jake's trust against him, ruining his relationship with Tom. Then, she expected to be forgiven, but instead retaliated when Jake didn't accept her apology. Yet she has the audacity to complain about how Miriam used her sympathy against her, wishes she would let her die, and calls her twisted.
She's twisted. If that happens again, I'm letting her go towards the light.
You see my problem here? What she has learned in episode 11 is that if people don't want to build bridges, then they're the problem, regardless of the betrayal. You don't expect someone to simply forgive you, then be defensive when they don't accept you back. It's not Ellie's fault that Jake loses Tom, but she worsened the situation at the cost of Jake's trauma, which is twisted as it all went for nothing. Let's discuss about how Ellie makes the same mistakes as her greatest nemesis. Ellie was betrayed by Alec 3 times, while Jake was first fooled by Gret and then her. Sure, you can argue that it was Jake's fault for not talking to Tom like he was told to, and Jake was making the situation worse when he showed his true colors. But Ellie did the exact same thing to Alec when the two were forced to work together in the same episode, episode 11. Ellie was as whiny as Jake when she confronted Alec. Although she did stop when Alec called her out, she still held a grudge. Yet she's upset that Miriam, Jake, and Tom held grudges when she also held grudges too from those interviews. She expects so much of people but not herself. So Ellie connected with Jake after switching teams. At this point, Jake knows Ellie and can be vulnerable around her. Then, Ellie manipulated Jake in the worst way possible by validating his distrust with Tom because it benefits her. And to add insult to injury, told Jake that he's not a toy to manipulate with as she manipulates him. No matter how sorry she is, she was never a true friend. Sure, you might argue that Jake voted for Gabby in episode 8, but that vote wasn't out of treachery, revenge, or for the money. He voted for her for the most basic reason. Gabby made him lose the challenge first. And don't forget that the challenge was outsmarted by Fiore, Alec, and Gret, and the rest became aware of it at the ceremony. Regardless of Alec's betrayals, Ellie continues to advocate for him, sacrificing Jake when he did absolutely nothing until the confrontation. We all love Gabby. She means well, but she's a flawed character and that makes her interesting. You can apply the same logic with Jake. For me, I see two kind characters who are struggling managing their mental health. The whole point of Ellie's relationship with Gabby is that everyone deserves to be accepted and validated. However, when it comes to Jake's feelings, Ellie blames him for expressing his disappointment. It's like when someone destroys something important to you and then they blame you for feeling upset. The victim blaming is absurd. Episode 11 made me frustrated at Ellie, and I believe Jake has every right to be mad at her. Ellie comparing losing Tom to Gabby leaving is condescending, because she still has Gabby, but Jake completely loses Tom as a result of her betrayal. Ellie used to be my favorite character, and I still think she has the best character design. But after seeing All Stars and her appearance in Tom Jake, I can't say that she's a well-written great character. Fans praise her for her honesty, but what irritates me the most is that she says them as if she's better than everyone. Ellie talks big about growing up when she hasn't gotten over Jake, not when she finds his discomfort a form of entertainment. It's bullying that served her no gameplay benefit or advantage. It's even worse that the only thing Jake did to her is call her out on the first episode of All Stars. I haven't seen every single greeting, but I know Jake called her a sociopath, which doesn't sit right. There is also another greeting where Ellie talks about not wanting to reconcile with Jake because people are not obligated to like each other and that she has moved on from Jake. I don't believe her in the slightest. Ellie invalidating Jake makes me frustrated to listen to her, especially when the point of her relationship with Gabby is about validation. Ellie faked a friendship with Jake, destroyed a relationship she helped recover, expected forgiveness from a person she emotionally hurt for her own benefit, gets a problem when she isn't forgiven, and to add insult to injury, say they're the problem. The Tom Jake series only made Ellie far worse for me in the episode that she's featured in. Saying that Jake can't relate to her because she had it harder, that being disowned by your parents is not as bad when you have Tom and Miriam's winning supporting you. I'm aware that they have came to terms off screen, but it sucks that Jake has accepted to be the butt of the joke while Ellie gets no backlash for initiating conflict. Honestly, it's unfair. I'm not saying Ellie should reconnect with Jake just because he helped clean the dishes, but my point is that what has Jake ever done to Ellie other than not accepting her apology? Ellie betrayed Jake that almost cost him his relationship in season 1 and bullied him for pleasure in All Stars. I don't want to sound like a total Ellie hater ending this video, so I want to mention some key points as to why she isn't completely at fault for her wrongdoings. Some of us might believe that it's poor writing from Odd Nation cartoons. All Stars unnecessarily villainized her to the point where I find it difficult to even consider her as a gray character, and the show justifies her wrongdoings because of her background. As I've said in the beginning, I don't hate Ellie for her strategic play, I just don't like her for frothing at the presence of Jake when she's the one who started their beef. My goal for this video is to share my opinions on the matter and not change people's minds. If you want to express your disagreements, you can share your thoughts on the comments below. I would like to start some conversations. I had this opinion for a long time, but Reddit typically does not like to promote long essays to be shared widely. So I combined all of my Ellie criticisms from Reddit into this video. So, I'll see you next time.